We're thrilled to have another major leader in the digital health community coming to us from GSK, Daniyal Hussain. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Fantastic, fantastic. Really good to see you. And if you could just start off with a little bit of your background and journey about where you've come from and what you're doing in digital health.
Absolutely. So at GSK, I'm the executive director of technology business development, which is essentially our business development group for anything that's not asset specific BDs. We look at platforms, AI technologies, data sets. Before this, I was at Valo Health for about 4.5 years, one of the flagship pioneering companies utilizing AI for small molecule drug discovery, help them acquire a number of strategic platforms, as well as develop a product and in-license data sets. And before that was at AstraZeneca and the immuno-oncology strategy group.
That's brilliant. And so tell the audience a little bit about what you do day to day at GSK.
Day to day, it's a lot about just talking to companies, evaluating their capabilities, and just looking at novel technologies that will help us accelerate our traditional drug discovery process through various means possible. And that could be through generating proprietary large-scale data sets, looking at new translational technologies, looking at new platform technologies, um, and working collaboratively with our internal experts to find ways to do things in a faster and more efficient way. Right.
That's great. And you're obviously engaged in the enthusiasm around digital health and digital transformation, right? You see what's going on, you walk around, you see whether it's clinical trials or whether it's whatever, you see lots of paper in physicians' exams rooms, you
Mm-hmm.
see lots of paper in physician and hospital
Yep.
admissions and waiting rooms, whether it's fax machines or phone calls, right? So we're not at the age of Uber when it comes to healthcare, where you can swipe in about 30 seconds, you get a car to take you somewhere. So tell us where's the enthusiasm coming from your side and what you've seen?
Yeah, so a lot of my focus is more on the early drug discovery side. So there's a lot of innovation in that space around the use of novel AI methods for finding new drugs, finding new uh, targets, figuring out how the underlying biology works. But you're right that the healthcare system generally, that includes everything from drug development all the way to patient delivery, is quite a few years behind. We still are living in, like I said, if the current age is Uber, then we're probably still in the fax era, although we're hopefully moving away from that a little bit too. The enthusiasm just comes from this. There's so much opportunity out there with the use of the data sets that we have available, the technologies that we have available to really make a difference in the way we find drugs and get them to patients. And I think it's important to realize that there's not some magic silver bullet. It's that entire process that I described is probably a sequence of maybe 1,000 different steps. And there are point solutions for each of those novel steps. Like I think previous speakers were talking about, automated transcription services to put things into EHRs. That's a very narrow solution set, but an important one. And there's a lot of those that are coming out in the entire development chain. And there are others that are trying to look at integrating all those novel, small niche solution sets into something that's a little bit broader. So now I can skip maybe 5 or 6 steps and get to from point A to point B faster. So there's a lot of excitement, lots of things that are interesting to look at, but also just a lot of things that don't work, which is also unfortunate. And so that leads to a lot of churn and a lot of diligence that's required on our part. Because as we get into closer to the clinic and closer to the patient, the regulatory burden also increases substantially. There's a lot of cybersecurity risks that need to be accounted for. And some of the earlier companies that came into space just don't always have that level of rigor associated with them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We are seeing an increase in rigor with a lot of the new analytics and AI platforms that are out there in our studies and the research we've done in terms of actually doing IRB approved studies and n equals 10 to n equals 300 kind of
Mhm.
populations. And when you look at the trends and what you've seen, what you saw at JP Morgan, and you're looking at some of the kind of funding, what kind of notable dynamics or trends are you seeing in the funding space for these companies, and how are they impacting the industry's growth?
Yeah, so I think it's important to realize that we've come out of a period where money was extremely cheap. And so a lot of companies that perhaps shouldn't have gotten funded did get funded. And some of those companies are struggling. But in general, the markets have been picking up, especially the public markets. You see the XBS doing much better than it was a little while ago. The IPO markets have started uh, opening up a little bit again. We've seen some new IPOs over the last few months, which provides an exit to some of the VCs who have the cash tied up in those companies. And VC funding is continuing as well. They're being more selective in their investments, uh, doing a little bit more diligence, taking a little longer, but that's okay given the stage of the cycle that we're at. So the markets are doing well, and there is some more access to capital, also access to non-dilutive capital in a lot of cases through pharma partnerships and things of that nature. And so for the companies that are able to provide some proof points and details, there is a decent funding environment. They may not get the valuations that they're looking for, but those things are improving, which is a the source of optimism for a lot of these companies.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely spot on. And we're seeing the same thing too. It's fascinating to see how we're seeing so many angels writing checks. Although the institutions and the strategics are sitting on the sidelines in a lot of these things or asking for ridiculous valuations, the angels are actively writing checks because they know, especially the physicians and a lot of the folks in healthcare, the healthcare executives, they know that in fact that what is happening is there's a lot of activity happening and there's a lot of growth because they see phone calls, paper, and fax machines everywhere when they walk into a hospital or physician's office. So you're spot on there. And I think going back to some of the other things that you've seen over the last few weeks after JP Morgan, during JP Morgan, let's talk about partnerships. There's a lot of these that get announced during JP Morgan, and there's a lot of these that are made and introduced at JP Morgan. And how significant are these collaborations from what you're seeing in terms of shaping, the future of med tech, biotech, digital tech? And what are some of the examples that you want to share with us?
I mean, I think there's uh, the partnerships are an important facet of development. Historically, pharma has been a great partner for drug development companies. They help them run the phase threes, help them take the drugs to commercial markets. And now, as you kind of move towards some of these more digitally enabled companies, there are some partnerships that are coming out there where some non-dilutive capital is being provided, but also more importantly, uh, expertise and experience within specific work environments within either large pharma companies or health systems or some area where these companies are able to now actually see what's happening in a real world setting and what the true customer pain points may be, so that those pain points could be generalized and then lead to a better solution. Um, and I think there's a lot of really interesting companies out there and a lot of new strategics that are kind of coming in. NVIDIA just made a big investment in Recursion, and so NVIDIA and Recursion are partnering up in that way. So we're seeing a marriage of these two kind of different types of entities that have historically not always been together. And we're also starting to see some more acquisition activity. We saw a couple of drug companies get bought out and some other um, more health tech companies get involved in partnerships. So I think there's a lot of non-dilutive capital that's kind of coming in as a result of these activities, which will help the companies from a capital standpoint, but also from a workflow and product development standpoint as well.
Okay, that's brilliant. And then I think just to wind things up a little bit here, certainly, we saw the how the partnerships look at like Pfizer and what they did with partnering in with a company to get a COVID vaccine and then getting out to billions of people all over the planet. So it was really a good opportunity to see how life science partnerships can literally save so many lives and have such an
Mhm.
accelerated impact on people. But when you look at venture partnerships and how they contribute to the growth of innovation in biotech companies, are there any specific areas, sectors, others that where you see like collaborations really picking up and really active?
Um, There's obviously a lot of interest in still in AI, but I think the VCs are starting to become a little more sophisticated around what they're looking for. So you have to come in with a very specific either problem set or a specific thesis or ability to like solve problems that really truly will advance drug discovery or healthcare delivery in some manner. And I think we're also starting to see a lot more interest from large strategic players to get in early on the not just the investing side, but also just in the company formation side and just in the broader early stage ecosystem. We have a number of groups such as Merck, Pfizer, J&J that have uh, ecosystems where they partner with early stage companies. So I think that early look and just early exposure to those companies is something that a lot of players are very interested in.
Yeah, that's right. Anything else to wind up? I mean, just an amazing amount of insights and perspectives that you're adding here for our audience. Anything else that you want to tell people before we sign off?
No, I think it is a fascinating space. It's a space that will continue to evolve, and I think it's a space that also that has the potential to make a pretty large impact in how we deliver care to patients and get novel treatments to them. So I'm very excited to be here and be in the space.
No, it's fantastic. Thank you, Daniel. Really appreciate your time today and looking forward to all the great work and getting updates from you going forward in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely.